University of Leeds AT training session on speech to text. My name's Tom Starkey. I'm the ATA, the Assistive Technology Advisor here at the university. And today's session we're going to be looking at a technology that is becoming more prominent purely because it's becoming more accurate in academia. It's speech to text. It gives students and staff another way of inputting text into a computer, into a document or onto an online website or whatever it is that you want to use it for. I'm going to be looking at a couple of different alternatives when it comes to this type of input today, and we're going to be looking at some of the benefits, disadvantages, and demonstrating some of the things that these programs can do to help you in your academic life. Alright then, so first up, let's have a look and do our definitions. What exactly is speech to text? Well, speech to text technology allows you to transcribe voices into a written form. It's an alternative way of inputting writing into digital form. Although rarely 100% accurate, and that's one of the problems there's been in the past. Because of the lack of 100% accuracy, people have basically just given up using these things, and I can't blame them, because it's only up until recent years, around about 5 years ago, that the technology is now at a point where it's become viable to use it in the way that I'm going to demonstrate. But it's never 100% accurate, but the technology is now at a point where it offers a viable alternative to writing or typing, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. We're not going to specifically look at voice to text for orientation and guiding yourself around a computer. We're going to be simply looking at it for dictation, whether you're writing a dissertation, whether you want to just talk a few notes into your phone. There's lots of different options, so let's get cracking. Okay, these are the benefits that I see for students and staff at this present moment in time. So for those with mobility issues, it allows an alternative way to input text. If you do not have the full use of your hands, input through keyboard and mouse can be problematic, and using your voice to type is a very much easier, efficient way of doing things. It can circumvent some spelling problems. If you're on the dyslexic spectrum, you may find that actually visualizing words and visualizing the correct spelling of words can be an issue. Of course, we have fantastic grammar and spelling checkers, but one of the bonuses of using speech to text is that because you are saying the word rather than typing the word, the program usually recognizes the correct spelling of that particular word. It allows for the completion of other physical tasks whilst writing. We all have extremely busy lives, and it's not often the case that perhaps we have the time to fully concentrate, sit down at a computer and do one thing. For students who have children or family responsibilities, for busy students who are running between jobs and study, and all sorts of other different situations, what the speech-to-text programs do is they free up your hand, so you can be writing whilst cooking a meal, you can be writing whilst doing other activities, and that I think is a bonus for people who are not particularly time rich. It increases independence in regards to note-taking. We have a fantastic note-taking offering here in Disability Services. However, some students find that having somebody do that work for them is slightly problematic in regards to independence. Now the technology now offers an alternative or an augmentation to traditional note-taking, where a student can go in, use a device, use a speech-to-text program, and record the lecture themselves and have a transcription instantly, so that they can take that away and make notes on it. It's not a replacement for note takers, of course. Note taking is a very specific skill, but it is an alternative for students who may not be comfortable with having another body in the room helping them, or who maybe prefer this way of working. It can streamline certain academic processes when it comes to note-taking, or when it comes to I'm thinking about staff now, I'm thinking about the minutes of a meeting. Instead of having a member rapidly trying to keep up with what's being said, this technology can provide you an instant transcription of what a conversation has been like. As I say, not always 100% accurate, but a lot of the time, if I'm going to be honest, it's getting to be close, especially in particular program that I'll be demonstrating a little later on. It also offers a low-cost alternative to transcription of interviews. There are lots of occasions in academic life at university where for research purposes, people have to go out into the field, have to do interviews, and then have to spend a lot of time transcribing those interviews. Some people get funding for this, but a vast majority of students do not. It's time consuming, it's boring, it's very difficult to try and pick out what you need from those conversations. So what we have here is we have a way of doing it instantly, and in many cases a way of doing it at a very low cost point, or in fact free. So those are the benefits that I can see, but of course for balance, I think that we need to think about some of the disadvantages to this particular technology as well. There are drawbacks. Some systems need vigorous training, and this can often be time consuming. I'm thinking in this particular case of Dragon. Now Dragon is a fantastic technology, and it's one of the most established speech-to-text technologies that we have. However, it does take a modicum of training for it to become accurate. Now that means that there is an initial outlay of time that perhaps, unless you go on to use Dragon regularly, is more than a lot of students can afford. It's also frustrating. The process can be often frustrating when you're sitting at a computer with a microphone repeating the same phrase again and again and again. So that, in the case of particular programs, can be problematic. This is not a perfect technology either, so accuracy fluctuates given variables such as environment, accent, ambient noise, and other factors. So it's not going to be 100% all the time, even at optimal conditions. But if those conditions are suboptimal, then things like accuracy are going to take a hit. So if you are in a lecture and the lecture is noisy, or if you are if the speaker has a very strong accent that the program is not used to, or a number of other reasons why this may not be 100% perfect. And of course, with that environment and situational environment thinking, for something like dictation, you have to have a quiet environment. It's needed because you are actually speaking out loud, and in some cases around the university campus especially, that is problematic, for instance in places like libraries and other workspaces where quiet is the norm. There are actually technologies that allow you to speak without being heard, but that is a little far in the future, and they are a little bit clunky at this moment in time, but I'm sure that's something that will develop over time. But yeah, another drawback in this case is a quiet environment is needed for optimal usage. And then the big one for me, when it comes to some of the programs that advertise speech to text, there are security issues in regards to where the speech is saved and who gets to listen to or read the transcripts of the things that are saved. In my sessions with students, I always lead with the buyer beware situation. Make sure you read the terms and conditions. Make sure you're comfortable with where that information is going. If you are doing research, you may have ethical issues to think about when it comes to the recording of certain things, and so on and so forth. Of course, though, that's up to the individual to ensure that those things are up to scratch. Alright, so those are the drawbacks. Now let's have a look at some examples of what we are talking about. The first one is my most recommended technology this year, this academic year. It's called Otter AI. Otter AI is a PC and mobile app that uses machine learning to transcribe speech into text. It's where the AI part comes from. It's for artificial intelligence, obviously. It syncs over mobile and PC, so if you record something whilst you're out about with your mobile, it will be there when you get home to use your home computer. It's online, and it has useful features such as auto-generated keywords and is able to identify different speakers in a conversation. The audio and text can be exported and edited, so it's very good for referencing, it's very good for citation, it's very good to include a quotation within the rest of your work. And in my own preliminary tests, these are very limited by the way, but in my own preliminary tests at university, the app is delivering around about 92% accuracy in a lecture theatre environment with optimal conditions, with no form of voice training. Now that is a very quiet lecture theatre where the person using the app is sat at the front and the speaker is speaking clearly in a fairly flat accent. But something like that a few years ago would be absolutely unheard of. And it's that reason why I believe that this particular technology is useful for lots of different reasons. Okay, so let's have a look and see Otter AI in action. What I thought I would do, to be honest, to save myself some time, is that I've been using Otter AI to transcribe what I've been saying so far. So as you can see, as I speak, what it is doing, it is instantly transcribing what I say into text, and it's also doing certain things like using spelling and grammar. The spelling and grammar feature is not particularly accurate as of today, but it's a nice added bonus. I'm using the online PC version of the app, and but there are mobile apps that can be used with Android and Apple, so there is a lot of choice. It has a lot of diverse usage. You can use it in lectures if you have permission to record. You can use it to, as I say, to record interviews. You can use it in meetings for minutes. I personally use this to write, as it were, first draft documents, and then I can take the exported text and I can edit as I go through. So it's a really nice first draft machine. One of the most interesting uses I've had for this particular app is that I have been able to communicate with a profoundly deaf student without an interpreter by simply using this app. Now, the old-fashioned version would be having a pad and paper, and there would be a certain amount of time where I write down a question and then the student read the question and then wrote it back to me. But what this does, that kind of cut down on the time it would take as a workaround when a BSL interpreter was not available. So that's Otter AI. This would be my #1 recommendation, if I'm going to be honest, for today, but it is not the only option out there. However, it's a good option because #1, it's adaptable for lots of different situations. #2, it works when it comes to both the UI and it comes to the other features. One of the things to do with mobile apps is that sometimes that they can be a little bit eccentric, but in the case of Otter AI, everything seems to be working to a point where it is reliable, and when it comes to academics, that reliability is incredibly important. So this was Otter AI. I'm going to show you a couple of other features that it has after you've finished a particular transcription. If you think about a lecture that goes on for an hour and a half, you could be looking up to something like 10,000 to 20,000 words. That in itself is an incredibly long document. So let me show you some of the other features that it has. I'm going to stop the recording there. And we're going to wait as the recording is processing. Dependent on the time that this takes, it means that you have to wait slightly for a full process, and I've had 14 minutes of recording, so that might take a little bit of time. Now, if we have a look at it here, it's already started to process the words. One of the other great features of Otter AI is that it auto creates keywords that when you press on them, it will take you to the part where they appear. Traditionally, if we were talking about audio recording for lectures, we may use a dictaphone. And sometimes when you are listening back to the dictaphone, finding a particular piece of information in an hour and a half lecture is quite difficult. What Otter AI does is that it uses a certain algorithm to identify which words come up the most. And so if you want to find a particular section and you understand and remember what word was used in that particular section, you can press on that word and it will take you to that section of the text. So you have lots of features, such as you can edit the text in actually in the text. You can export the text itself. You can share it. You can do a number of different things about it. Of course, if you want to learn a little bit more about any of this technology that I am demonstrating today, you are more than welcome to come along to a one-to-one session at Disability Services, and I'll provide a link on how to book those sessions along with this presentation at the end. So that's Otter AI. I'm going to start another recording because what I want to do is I want to continue the recording so I can have a recording for the rest of the session. So we're going to record here. So while that's playing, I'm going to come back to the presentation. And if we have a look at some of the benefits of this particular example, Otter AI. Otter AI is a PC and mobile app that uses machine learning to transcribe speech into text. And so you've seen some of those features. That's an example, but I've already given you an example, well, a live example of what it can do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you to have a look at that particular video itself in your own time. It's a very short demonstration of what this particular app can do. Now, Otter AI, although in my opinion is probably the best of the transcription speech to text technologies that we're going to look at today, it is not the only one. There are lots of other options. If we have a look at our next example, Google Docs voice typing, the native voice typing app in Google Docs is really, really good. The native Google speech-to-text app is good. It's easy to use option that has a high level of accuracy, although to be honest it's not as accurate as Otter AI. It's a very good option in regards to dictating first drafts of academic texts. I like it a lot, and it's free to sign in if you have a Google sign-in. It's available on any Google Docs in the Tools section, and if we have a look at the example here, I'm just going to play the example so you can have a look, and I'll show you exactly what we mean. Okay, so this is the Google Docs native speech-to-text app, which you can find in the Tools section, and it is under voice typing. I'm going to start it and we'll see how well it does. So this is available for free if you sign up to Google and use the Google Docs app. And what this is very good at is very good at dictation. Not brilliant at conversations, but very good when it comes to dictating perhaps a first draft of an essay or a dissertation, or notes that you might want to make after a lecture or something along those lines. Unlike Otter AI, it's a little less accurate, coming in at about 85 to 87% accuracy off the bat when it comes to dictation, and then there's a huge drop-off when it comes to something along the lines of a lecture or a seminar. However, if you are looking for a tool, a very easy to use tool, a free tool to start dictating your thoughts rather than writing or typing, this is probably an extremely good option. We'll have a look at the different things that this can also do when it comes to instructions and when it comes to orientation and movement around files and such. But today we're just going to concentrate on the speech-to-text functionality. So I'm going to stop talking there and I'm going to see about the accuracy of this particular app. So after a quick check, we're having a look and seeing that. So this is available for free to sign up to Google Docs. Unlike the Otter AI app, this does not read back to you, so you have to do a little bit of reading yourself to ensure that there has been an accurate take on the things that you have said. And to be honest, there's not that many differences between the text and the speech. Of course, what this does bring up when it comes to dictation is the lack of punctuation. Otter AI attempts to provide punctuation within the speech. Google Docs can do it if you dictate the punctuation yourself. However, when it comes to writing in this way, I think, to be honest, what we're looking at is we're not looking at a finished product by the end of the dictation. I think what we're looking at realistically is a first draft piece of writing, a way to quickly get ideas down in a quicker form than perhaps traditional writing or typing would take. Alright, so that's Google Docs, and next I'll be looking at Word's native speech-to-text app. Okay, so this is... And we'll stop that there. Sorry about that. So we won't be looking at Word's native speech-to-text app because, in my opinion, it's not particularly good for the job that we are looking at today. But Google Docs voice typing, free to use, available now. So something to think about. Let's have a look at our next example. There are dictation tools on the Apple Mac. Dictation on the Mac, and the reason I included the Mac is because many students who I see use Mac as their primary laptop, their primary computer, their primary device. It's part of the voice control package, which is an incredibly good accessibility package that goes with Apple Mac computers and iPads. It's fairly accurate and allows you to integrate certain commands to navigate a document, which is very useful for students who have low levels of mobility. We haven't got time to go through all the features because it is extremely fully featured in this particular session, but the instructions can be found on the link there, and at the end of this video I will be providing the slideshow itself along with the video of the session. Okay, that's it when it comes to a taster of some of the things involved when in speech to text. If of course you would like to know a little bit more, let me know. My details are there at the bottom of the screen, t.m.starkey@leeds.ac.uk, and there is my phone number for my office at the bottom there. For me, it's a very exciting technology because what it does, it allows a different way of inputting text, which is now accurate to an extent where it is perfectly usable. I wouldn't recommend it for writing dissertations and writing things that would take a lot of composition and thought, but for a way to start something, to make notes. Of course, both Apple phones and Android phones have native voice-to-text features as well, which are both very good. So if you want to take a quick audio note, turn it into text, there are many different options to look at in that particular case. Like I say, if you want any other information, or if you want to book a one-to-one session with myself and we can have a look at some of these technologies in a bit more detail and we can do a bit more hands-on training, I'm more than happy to do that. I'll provide the link at the end of this session, and I just want to say thank you very much for sticking with me. It's a long one, but hopefully it's been useful, and I hope to see you soon. My name's Tom Starkey. I'm the ATA, the Assistive Technology Advisor for the University of Leeds. This bit has been the session on speech to text, and I hope you have a very good rest of the day.